Hello, everyone. It's 10 Types, joined by Uncommon Fossil again. And today we're in the Reasonably Effective podcast again. And this is episode, I think, 6. So, Uncommon Fossil, how has your week been with Pokemon?
All right, it's been pretty good. I migrated a week ago, so I got to spend the entire week in live, and it was pretty all right. I got to say, a few glitches, but nothing terrible. Most of them are cosmetic, not gameplay. It's nice having all my collection in one place, so it lets me play with those. Got to rework a new Entei deck, which is always what you should be doing, spending your time at Entei, and it's fun to try different things. Although what I think you've had this experience too, it seems like as more people are migrating to live, or at least going into live, that there's a lot of weird decks. Because like it was kind of like today I was up against this Arceus V box of stuff. It had Arceus V Star, Lugia V Star, Mewtwo V Star. It had Mew V Max, Genesect V, Blissey V.
Yeah,
I was like, what's going on here?
I've definitely played against some weird decks. I haven't been playing that much live, but I've been playing some, and I played against weird decks. And I don't know why I play against these weird decks. Like, they give you one of the best decks right off the bat, and like all these, pretty
Hmm.
much anything else that you'd craft is worse than that, except for maybe like Lugia Lost Box. There's a few better decks than like Arceus Flying Pikachu, but it's kind of weird that you see these decks like playing Hop. Like, why do you replace Research with Hop? But I guess it's just newer players, so it's kind of weird, and this is part of the problem with like
Yeah.
not having theme deck format too, I think.
Yeah, the whole ranking matching system, I'm not sure. If it is because of new people, though, that is ultimately a good thing, right? Because
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
new people in is good. And I think with live out there, I think it will encourage new players. So hopefully that's a plus in the long run.
yeah. And I've been like, I don't
And
play
how's your
that.
week?
Yeah, I don't play that much. So like, I also find that you like, I'm matching into a lot of like newer or not as good players. I think I've finally gotten my like rank up to a spot where like the skill levels are more equal. I'm not like the best player in the
Good.
world, but like there are obviously, as you said, it appears to be a lot of new players, and I haven't been playing, I guess, enough to like run into them. But also tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about the deck you were I gave to you, right?
Right. You sent me a deck list the other day, which is preparing for what we're going to talk about later. So I guess it's going to be a bit of a secret, but it was a Zoroark control list, and you sent me a list. As soon as I saw the list, first I knew it wasn't good, but you can defend yourself later on that because you were playing both Chinchinos and Bibarels, which just doesn't seem good. But so I was playing control and got to experience the control experience, which is I think honestly a lot of pain. The games were very long, 20 minutes to a half hour per game. I wasn't. I was new to the deck, so you have a lot of options because it's a box deck, and so I wasn't really sure what to do a lot of the time. Just a bit random in my moves, but my opponents didn't know what to do either. I won. I think I might have went 2-1 with the
No,
deck.
I think it was you went
Or was
one
it
and
one and
two.
two?
You went 1 and 2. Yeah, I was helping you through
Yeah,
it, yes, and it was
yeah. That's
something.
in quotes help, I think. But yes,
Uh,
figuring out what to do wasn't easy. And then the one game, the opponent got annoyed because it is a slower playing deck because you do have more choices. And then they just for like spent like 15 minutes just slow playing till they timed out.
yeah,
Doing essentially nothing. They just sit there, then they play a capacious bucket, and they take this like 15 seconds to draw a card, and it was just doing things just to drag out the game. Unfortunately,
yeah. And then I think we did 3 games, and it took like 2 hours or something. So yeah, that's the control experience. You just
yes.
need to like go with it. Just do whatever, and then hopefully you win, right?
Look, it's intriguing the idea of control, right? Now, certainly, if in the as the perspective of a budget player trying to get your daily challenges accomplished and make progress with things, you're not making a lot of progress with it. That's one thing.
Yeah, yeah. But you got the moral victory.
I did. I played control. And I'm a better person for it. So
Exactly.
look, I mean, there's certainly a place for control, and I do need to work on that more. But it's not my favorite thing right now.
Yeah. But so I think it's time to move into our first segment, which
Yep.
is we didn't come up with a name for this, but pretty much the idea is we read Pokemon YouTubers about section on their YouTube channel,
Yep.
and then the other person needs to guess which YouTuber that is. So do you want to go first?
Sure. And we divided the things up regionally. We're English speakers, so you have the United States, and I have the rest of the world, and that's probably about even in terms of choices we have to choose from, and trying to keep reasonably well-known people, I think, within it.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so yeah, so the first one, read the description here.
Or a section of the description as well.
Right, sometimes it'll be a section. Obviously, need to not read out the name with it. So, welcome to my channel. On the channel, I like to cover all kinds of PTCGO content, including competitive deck coverage, helpful guides, top fives slash tens, new deck ideas for the community, recapping best decks in the game, live stream. Subscribe if you're interested.
That's it.
That's it. So
That
it's a
could-
little generic.
That could be
There's
like
a little
anyone.
bit of a clue.
That like
there.
definitely looked like some of the people I was looking at.
There's a nugget in there, but I don't know that you're going to get it.
So there's the top 5, top 10. Is it Zapdos TCG?
It is not Zapdos.
Oh.
No. You need to focus in on new deck ideas. So if I tell you that, who could it be?
I
don't want to take a
I
second guess.
Justin Basil. No, wait, they're American. I don't know. Who is it?
It's Little Dark Fury.
Little Dark Fury. Okay, but he
That's
he
his.
doesn't
for
even like
such
do
an
that
interest-
stuff.
Well, no, he does do deck ideas, right? But the rest of
Yeah,
it,
but that's
he
like
doesn't
everyone.
really do.
Everyone does new deck ideas too. So
Right. For someone that's got such a unique channel, it's a very generic description. So
yeah, I think you're gonna win this one, but let's see. I'll go to my first channel now, and these are all Americans. So this first one is I play a lot of the Pokemon TCG. I am the 2022 NAIC champion, 5-time regional champion with countless top 8 finishes at major tournaments.
that's Azul.
Yeah, that's Azul. With the
Okay.
you got it from the NAIC champion, right?
I was thinking that, and right, and obviously a lot of accomplishments there.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So, yeah, you gave me an easier one. Although, look, Little Dark Fury is certainly well known.
Yeah, but still.
It was a little generic, I guess, huh? Yeah, maybe. All right, this one, I'll read you this. If you need it, I'll give you a hint on this
Yeah.
if you need to.
I realized
also,
one of the
but-
people I chose was not North American, or was not was
Not
like was
American?
Canadian. Was Canadian.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I figured out someone else.
all right, you got us replacement.
Mhm.
All right. This one's another list. So, on this channel, you can expect to see : deck analysis, set reviews, tier lists, tournament results and prep, collection and PSA content, guides, and news.
Uh,
I'll give you a hint if you think you need it. I might dock you a half point though.
can you read it? Wait, so it was
So
Oh,
I'm
is
just
it?
gonna
I
give
think
you-
it's. I think I know who it is. I think it's Omnipoke.
It is.
Okay,
It is. Good job.
That like they have a unique. Notably, the set reviews. They have a lot of hours of set reviews.
They do, right? I don't know if I've seen them do PSA content, but
I think I've seen like 1 or 2 videos like that. So
And I left out the first line, which would have been the hit. Hello and welcome to blank, the channel that brings you everything Pokemon, which is how I believe he
yes.
starts every video. So I didn't want to
Yeah.
read that, even because I think that was a giveaway. All right, so good job there.
okay, let's see. I'll do. Yeah, see, Azul is my number 2 actually. So I'll do.
So your number one was not American.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll do this one. I guess I'll read this whole thing. So blank is the best place for competitive Pokemon TCG content on the internet. Blank covers both competitive and fun deck profiles in depth. He also features PTGO gameplay videos as well as competitive tabletop matches produced in the highest quality available. Interested in attending a Pokemon tournament yourself? Blank travels to regional and national tournaments all over the world and vlogs the experience, showing off everything that the Pokemon TCG has to offer.
Ooh, okay. So my initial reaction is tricky, Jim, and I might do that. Certainly, he does IRL. He's done actually some vlogging of one of them in some very limited capacity. Could be Raul Reddy because he does some of that too. But I'll go tricky, Jim.
Yeah, it's tricky, Jim.
All right.
So I was kept kept getting nervous. I was going to say the channel because it's like Mahone's Tricky Gym, and then just Mahone, and then it's Tricky
Yeah.
Gym. But yeah, okay, you got that one.
All right. All right. Good. All right. So here we go. This is the third one, which I think is the toughest one. We'll see. Energetic, exciting Pokemon entertainment, and that's it.
So I'm thinking this could be Zapdos. Um,
He brings the energy.
yeah, it could be Hot Chalk.
He brings energy too. Yeah.
Who else brings energy? Could be For the Win, but I don't think it's For the Win.
Yeah. I would. Yeah. He fits that too.
So yeah, I mean,
Well, I
unlike
don't know.
if it was like Omnivore, it would be like like
He
boring, low
not
energy.
energetic. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So, sorry, can you read it again?
Energetic, exciting Pokemon entertainment.
I'll go Zapdos.
It's Hot Chalk.
No.
So you're
Okay.
so close. You did a very good job of it. You narrowed it down right to those two
Yeah.
that were the logical choices.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll give you the third one. Yeah, but you won, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
I'll do the third
About
one.
time I won one. So
So this one is dedicated to providing competitive Pokemon TCG content.
wow.
Yeah.
So informative, which could be a lot of things, obviously. Um, I will say Raul Ready. He's
No,
very
no.
competitive
It's
focused. So,
it's Celios.
Celius. Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering for him too. I was also would expect him to have something a little more interesting to go along with his
Yeah.
personality.
I'll give you one more as well. So this one is blank is dedicated to covering the competitive aspect of the Pokemon TCG with recorded matches, commentary, and set and card analysis. That's a bit more descriptive, but not that much more descriptive.
So some set and card analysis tossed in also.
Yeah. So it's record, match, and commentary. Although I don't really remember if this
That's
channel does.
actually something they've
Yeah,
done.
I guess they. I mean, obviously, a lot of channels have a wide variety of content. So
Right, and people the descriptions are written early and then they deviate from them.
yeah,
So, set review. I'll say Mellow Magic Card.
no,
Like a
it's rare candy.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, I accidentally did. Trust Your Pilot is one who's Canadian.
Okay. Okay, that it's all right. Didn't remember that about him.
Yeah, nor did I clearly. It's time to move into our next segment now.
Yep.
Unfortunately, you took me down on this one. So
Right, but let's see. Hopefully the audience enjoyed it, and as we said at the introduction, going to talk about Zoroark. That is our reasonably effective card of the day, which certainly goes into deck builds. And the two ways generally it goes is with a control build, which you've had more experience with. Obviously, I tried it recently, and then attacking builds, which I've done a little bit, and I put together a deck list the other day too on that. And the attacking build is certain. Look, they're both box decks. They have a lot of pieces. They're very long deck lists for one thing. When you go to look at them, you have a lot of cards you need to know, which is a challenge. If you don't do it regularly, all of a sudden, like this deck list, they have Flapple, Appleton, Medina, Wormadam, Braixen, Raichu, Behemoth.
Behem.
I don't know those Pokemon off the bat there, right? So jumping in and playing a few games of these decks is certainly a challenge, which I think is one of the issues with Zoroark. Is you got to know the deck, and you need to kind of know what your strategy is, and you need to know your matchups, right? Because you're playing the right, you're
Yeah.
countering what you're up against. Even with an attacking deck, right? You're hitting for weakness or trying to take advantage of something of the way that their deck sets up.
I guess so. I think most of the time, though, it's pretty. I personally don't find it. I mean, I don't play it that much, but I don't think it's that hard to navigate. I think
Yeah.
there are a few ways that it goes. One, if you're against like certain decks, you have obvious counters. Like if you're against you use Medina. If you're against like,
Yep.
if you're
There's Raichu
yeah,
against Lugia, which
and
one
Palkia
shots
and
that.
Palkia. It doesn't always want. If they have Lugia can have Downer Spice, so Raichu won't necessarily get the KO. But then you can go in with
Yep.
Appleton, and then if they're like Arceus or something else fighting weak, you can go in with Wormadam. Obviously, if you need to take two prizes and they've taken almost all, if they've taken five, you go in with Slowbro. And
Yep.
if they're fire weak, you go in with Braixen. It's not likely that they're fire weak, but it's possible. And like Flapple if they got a loss of abilities. So pretty much you do the attack that does the most damage.
Mhm.
which usually is pretty obvious. The only weird thing, um, one, there is the Hisuian Zoroark, which instant KOs them at the end of the next turn. But luckily you don't have
Yeah.
that problem, right?
No, right. Live won't let you play that card. So, and it's it's been that way for a while.
I think it's been that way
Eventually,
since release, probably.
I think it has. So, we don't, not hold my breath for that one. But I found this was an IRL list that didn't play it, so it made it viable. And and certain ones are good in general, like Breaks In, which is 60 per Serena. Obviously, it plays 4 Serenas. You have Chinchino because you need to get your stage ones in the discard, but then you also can get your Serenas in the discard. So, so that does pretty good damage anyway, right? It gets up to usually getting 3 for 180. You can get usually that pretty quick early in the game, which is solid if you're not hitting for weakness.
Yeah, and then there's also I don't know, like the deck just has a bunch of solid attackers. The list that I'm looking at here has a Hisuian Basculin as a setup option, which is pretty alright.
Mhm.
But then both lists you're looking at also has Radiant Jirachi, right?
Right, Radiant Jirachi, which I enjoy. I think you haven't liked that Pokemon, but we can
No.
discuss that later. But and also it does play the Glimwood Tangle, and eventually when you do flip double heads with Astral Misfortune, you knock out your opponent's Pokemon. It's a fun feeling. So it's kind of stick it up there and hope, right? You flip, you have Glimwood Tangle, you flip again, and then if they can't gust you out and knock you out, you search for three, and that's a good thing too, right? Searching for any 3 cards you want.
Yeah, I don't know. I certainly see the value. The attack I don't think is that good, and you agree that the attack's not like amazing, but the ability is quite good. But then
Yeah.
um people play a lot of people play Path, and then they'll just Path you, and this is the only time they need to use it, so they'll definitely use
Right.
it. And that's just kind of annoying. So I feel like it doesn't usually provide a lot of value. I'd rather go in with something that like KOs them.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously if you kick, as with a lot of decks, you're setting up the turn you're on, you're setting up the next turn also because it's a stage one deck, so you at least have to have the basic Zorua in play, or else if you're knocked out, you can't attack. So there's going to be times that you can't manage to get your attack off, right? Even if you go second, you can't attack for damage turn one either. So, like control builds, you'd play Snorlax, which I guess you could put here too, just to kind of draw some cards to get set up in those in between turns. But you know, I think Radiant Jirachi is a fun card.
I guess so. I think I mean it's a solid card. It's not amazing though. A few other things. I think the deck's pretty good, but it has like a lot of annoying counters. Duraludon, right, is like a hard counter. I mean, it's
Right,
not.
the list only plays special energy. So right,
Yeah,
Duraludon, Temple of Sinnoh can is an issue. Not it doesn't shut you down, but it can complicate things.
yeah, and I think it's just not that good. It loses 12 most decks, but I mean, it's not horrible. It can be like it can beat decks if they're just very straightforward in the game plan. Like Mew VMAX, it can probably beat. But even against Mew VMAX, they play like Lost City, which will stop you. Can stop you. So that's annoying.
Right, because you're right. You're playing one of copies of these cards. So if you lose something like Mew and you lose your Mighty Ina to the Lost Zone, well, you're in trouble. But the deck and the control deck build too, which we'll get to. I think it's in one sense it's in a good place now because we're about to come to rotation, so it's got the biggest card pool it has in a year, which is what the deck wants, more choices. And we're in a place, if you're in a more competitive environment, where the decks are pretty established, is what they are, which therefore being able to counter them with a build is more predictable.
Yeah. So I think it certainly has power. I think one of the interesting things is that it's moved away from the Hisuian Arcanine build. We only get a zero card hand attack with the Hisuian Arcanine. So that's kind of
Mhm.
interesting because now it's choosing to play Wormadam and being more toolboxy, which I enjoy more. I think it's kind of weird. It just Hisuian Arcanine, I believe, has more HP. So I just let's see. I think it has like is it 130? How do you spell
I'm not
Hisuian?
sure.
Um, I think it has more HP. Yeah, it has 130. So like all your Pokemon in this deck are just getting one shot all the time, which is kind of annoying. Um, I mean, the deck's not
Yeah.
bad, but I think it also struggles against like Lost Box with their spread, and I just don't think it's that good. I mean, it's not bad, but I think it struggles some, and it's awkward to set up as well. I also would probably say
Yeah.
that I'd like the Curlier line over the Chinchino line because you can have access to that Gallade and have a few more options.
Right, and if you want
Yeah.
to play it post rotation, obviously with this build, it's using the Chinchino engine, which that's rotating. So the Curlio is what you got to replace it
Yeah,
with.
you could do Lightbard, but Curlier is lovable, searchable.
Right, which makes the deck just work better. You've already got enough challenges with the deck. Keep things simple. Yeah, look, it's an okay deck. Obviously, it's not a deck that has big results for a good reason, and it's not good against, I think, against single prize decks because it is a little hard to set up. So up against a single prize deck, your opponent probably can set up and stream attacks more easily, and really that which is what the person that doesn't miss an attack will win the game, and you're probably going to come up short there because you've got to get a lot of pieces and recycling, and you got very narrow lines of play, I think.
You do have Slowbro though. You can Slowbro, which takes two prizes instead of one. Um,
Yes.
but that's like if you both play like perfect games, then Slowbro will win you the game. But it's very possible for you to just miss an attack a KO because it misses. Um, and it's like I don't know. I think it's a solid deck, but it's a bit hard to always get what you need. But I know I think it's a cool deck. But do you want to introduce the control deck?
Yeah, so Zoroark control, and like I said, you sent me a list, but then we looked around and kind of came up with another list, which I think we tweaked a little bit more. So it uses again the Chinchino engine. Let me see. Hey, it's such a. This one is a very long list. Like I like to print
Yeah.
out my deck list, and to fit it on one piece of paper, you really got to squeeze things down. It's shocking how long it is. It's got 26 Pokemon. Most of them, you have the 4/4 Zoroark line and a 2/2
Yeah.
Chinchino. So you got a lot of one of. So you've
Yeah,
got
I'm looking at
a
the
lot of
original list here as well with Ticino and Barbero.
yeah. So you've got so many things to know. And then you've got a lot of trainers too that are very thin lines of trainers. To the list of trainers is pretty extensive. Partly because you have things to recover. Rod, Roseanne's backup. You have the attack to recover, Pal Pad. So you're kind of using things, getting things back because you can get into that endless loop. And it plays Capture Energy in this deck, and it plays a metal into water for some of the attacks. Do you want to like walk through some of the Pokemon in the deck list?
Yeah, I personally don't think the deck. I mean, you seem to have trouble when you're playing the deck, but I didn't. I don't think it's that weird, um, personally. But your goal is generally, obviously, you do Zoroark. This is, I believe, from Brilliant Stars. Is when I made this list. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not quite current, but you have a few different options. Notably, you have Dusknoir, which turns off special energy, which is a very strong. Now, some of you may be thinking that that's not a stage one, which it's not. It's a stage two.
Right.
But you Zoroark into Dusclops and then evolve that into the Dusknoir. And then it also has various energy denial options like Rabombi, Seeking, and Masquerade, as well as you can Float Soul to recover Crushing Hammers or other cards. And then you can also use Glam Berserker to remove their options from their hand. Again, you can remove energy with Evoltable, although it doesn't play Twin Energy, but you can power that up. And then you also have, I think that's about it. It plays Gorbis, which stops Chilling Reign and Teleon, which is kind of
Hmm.
useful. Then you have Galamite
Right.
Boss Orders. So
Right, because you're getting often your opponent, a Pokemon stuck in the active, and they're pinging you away with the Chilling Reign and Teleon can be their path to victory. So you shut down all Rapid Strike abilities with Gorbis there.
yeah, but I think like this is other than I don't know why it plays Chinchino and Barrel. It should probably just be Chinchino. And then
Yeah.
but aside from that, it's like pretty normal stuff. And Masquerade's not always played in this style of deck. But yeah, I think it's pretty normal stuff. One of the things that's annoying is Lost City now because yeah, it like removes your attacker permanently, which will just cause you to lose the game if they have that happen. So
Right.
try to avoid that. But I think most people don't know how to play against this style of deck. Also, this list might have too many like energy removal cards, but energy removal is the main win condition. So I think it's fair.
Right, that you got four hammers, which you can recover too. You're playing Flannery, Gellermine, trying to get something stuck with boss. So, and Yellhorn too. If they have something that can attack, get them confused. So you're trying to keep your opponent from doing things, getting rid of the energy, and then you get into an endless loop, and your opponent's going to deck out. Right. That's kind of a common way to play the deck.
Yeah, and then the list should maybe, especially with like Lost Stars and Cramorant, it could play
Hmm.
the Jolteon Memory Capsule, which is a bit. I mean, it's different because obviously it turns off stuff like Cramorant, the rest of the Inteleon engine. But then they can use like Lost Vacuum or Tool Scrapper to turn off the memory capsule. In which case, then they can use their abilities again, which is problematic, especially if they lost Vacuum it.
Hmm.
So that's why this, and it's also slower to set up, a bit more awkward. So that's why this list doesn't play it. But certainly there's a reason to play it. Um, and then there's also there are a few different builds, like different types of control. There's like water, metal, psychic, and lightning. I think are the four main types right now.
Hmm.
Psychic and lightning are the best right now. I think.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I think so. And then like double turbo is kind of a build as well. But this list does water and some of the metal. It doesn't really focus too much on one though. You could, because it's like a Zoroark toolbox style deck, you could focus more heavily on the water aspect with like Crabominable thrown in the list.
Hmm.
And I think that's the only other water attacker. Maybe I'm forgetting one. And then obviously you have metal. You have stuff like Cabalion, which provides pretty solid value. So you have some different options. And you could use some of the more generic attackers in this list as well, but it doesn't play them right. I think a Miltank could have value. You could also put in Zacian in this list as well, right? So
Um, yeah, right. Zacian to draw and get yourself set up, right?
yeah, is
With the
Zacian in the
Zacian
list
V.
you're looking at?
No, but I know we looked at some lists that did play that. So some played one, some even played two, just to kind of get it going and for you.
Yeah, Zacian can have like issues. It can get like stuck in the active, which is kind of bad. So that's not great, or just KO'd as well. So that's annoying.
Right, giving up two prizes. Because with this deck, the bit I played it's a little you're slow getting set up sometimes, but your opponent's only taking one prize at a time, so they're getting ahead in the prize race certainly. And you're okay with that as long as you're thinning your deck down to the cards you need for that matchup, right? That's kind of the strategy.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the deck's like pretty all right. It's probably not the best way to play control. The best way is probably the best control decks are probably lightning or psychic. Um,
Hmm.
Probably or both together. Right? Some people play both together. And what do you think the best way to play control is?
I mean, I haven't played a lot of control. I mean, probably the Mewtwo V Union right now, I guess, is sitting around that. Maybe I'm not sure though.
Yeah, I'd say probably Mewtwo, Vivien, and Yveltal. So like this, and then probably with the access to
Mhm.
like Ralts as well to stop them from attacking, which is okay with Miltank as well. That usually goes into control now.
Yeah. So and I said at the start, this is a good time for Zoroark, and in some sense, it's the best because especially now because rotation's been delayed, so this has probably a bigger set of cards than ever for a card to choose from like this. But there's a way. I think you might make the argument though that come rotation, Zoroark may actually improve. Would you say that?
Well, not necessarily the active rotation itself, but like the new cards coming out, right? Is that what
Yeah.
you're thinking? Yeah. So I
Yeah.
haven't really looked at them too much. Um, but yeah, there are quite a few, obviously, new Pokemon, and most notably, it can. I don't know if this is the most important thing, but it's certainly important. It can turn into Stage 1 EXs, right? It used to be able to turn into Stage 1
Right.
GXs, but no one really did that. But now it can do into EXs, which is kind of interesting because um, I mean, it just gives you one. You can have like really good attackers that Zoroark transforms into, because really
Yeah.
most of the attackers are just kind of mediocre. Like you look at a Pokemon like Braixen, which is one of the best attackers in the Zoroark attacking deck, and it's not that good, right? So,
Hmm.
but there are some really good ones. I think there's Bayonet EX, which item locks. So everyone will love that, I'm sure. And Spite Ops EX, which increases their retreat cost. So you can do item lock, increase retreat cost, and get them stuck in the active. So that's personally a
Hmm.
deck, possibly the deck I'm most looking forward to, and what other people are probably least looking forward to. So, I think that's going to be pretty solid. And then of course you can transform to any of the stage ones, right? There is
Yeah.
some good. There's Arm Rouge, which I think has potential paired with Rapid Dash, Magma Basin, and even Hisui. No, sorry, just Arcanine EX could see some value. Um, and I'm probably forgetting about some that are good, but I think the ability to turn to EX is quite nice.
Yeah, it's certainly very intriguing, even as someone that hasn't played Zoroark, the idea that you can use that to get into any of the EX stage ones, so opening up boxes there. And obviously, we're going to get at least the full year of EXs. I guess it's going to be multiple years, right, with EXs until the next big block comes. So,
Yeah,
but
I
we
think
have
so.
another year of Zoroark. So by the a year a year from now, there could hopefully are some really interesting choices to play with it. I'm thinking.
Yeah, there might be some like super overpowered control cards, and everyone's gonna hate the game again. Something like that. I could see that happening too.
It is, in which case Pokemon, because they don't like to ban things in standard, right? They ban it for expanded, which obviously expanded is not really very live now, so to speak.
I
And
see what
but
you did there. I see what you did there.
yes, indeed. So, but they would I'd probably rush to maybe print a counter card to shut down Zoroark's ability or something if that's what's happening.
Yeah, yeah. But so I think it's time we move into the final segment,
Yep.
which is talking about the Radiant Pokemon, which I think are some really interesting cards. That are they're unique in terms of their design. What they do is, for those of you that don't know, you can only have one Radiant Pokemon in your deck. They're all basic Pokemon. Sometimes they feature like a stage 2 or something, but it's implemented as a basic Pokemon. They're rule box
Yep.
Pokemon. So if they have an ability, it gets turned off by Path.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they're like good, I guess. They're better than like regular Pokemon, which makes sense because you can only have one. But yeah, I think
Right.
they're pretty cool. I like their design. They're generally pretty unique. None of them are too overpowered. I wouldn't say either. So I think they're cool.
Yeah, I think in terms of game design, they're good cards, so they're a reasonable choice to go in deck. Some of them are pretty versatile too, in a lot of different decks, but they're not overpowered. People haven't been, oh, I play Radiant Pokemon X and they just win all the time. So because that would obviously be really unpleasant. So I think it's a good design. So and there's 15 in total, and I don't believe there are will be any more. So I think the last of them we have seen. Most of them have abilities. A few don't. You want to kind of start talking about what they are now?
Sure. Should we start with the
I
first
guess,
set? I don't know. Should we
yeah,
start with
I
the
think
Radiant Eevee?
chronologically,
I don't know when Radiant like Eevee came out.
it came out later, if you want.
When did it come out? Oh, it's
Uh,
Pokemon Go. Around the Pokemon Go. It has the Pokemon Go
yeah, it
thing
was
on it.
between Blastoise and Gardevoir, but I don't have the set
Okay, so after
written
Pokemon Go.
down.
Okay,
So
so
yeah, so Radiant Heatran would be the first one then,
yeah,
chronologically, right?
so
In that
yeah, you should
case,
talk about that because you enjoy that one.
I've played it. Yes, I've played it because I like playing Magna Base, and I like trying to get Entei V to work, which it works some. But this Radiant Heatran is one without an ability, and most of those other abilities aren't good. But this one, the attack's very powerful. It takes 3 energy. That's the downside, but it's 70 damage per damage counter on this Pokemon. You pair it with Magna Basin. That puts 2 damage counters each time you attach an energy. So you get 2 attachments. So it takes you at least 2 turns to power it up. Say you get 2 Magna Basins.
Well,
That's
you
40.
could Raihan Magma Basin attach.
You could, but then you only have 20 damage, 2 damage counters, and
Yeah,
then you're only doing
yeah,
140. So that's you could. That usually you need more than that. So usually you're doing it twice. You're doing right. So you're doing 280 damage, which can knock out a lot of things. If you need to, you can even do a third turn, and then you're knocking out anything at all that your opponent has.
yeah,
So it's powerful. It obviously it's slow to get set up, and obviously it's vulnerable sitting there. If it gets gusted up, your opponent can usually knock it out. It's 160 HP, so because it's higher, kind of like Entei is. They assume you're going to use Magna Base and dropping that HP down.
yeah. I mean, most Radiants have, or a solid chunk have pretty high HP as well.
Uh, yeah, that's
So,
true.
some have low. It varies a lot, but yeah, in Heatran certainly on the higher end. It's not that good though. I think it's probably it's one of the worst we've seen. It might actually be the worst one we've
The
seen.
Radiant Pokemon? No, well, we'll see. I disagree. There's I think there are a lot of them that have very that I don't know that I would ever want to play. So, but
Like
we'll
this
see
one,
as we go
like
on.
this one. I think
I
you can I played it in its own deck where you do I think you do Gardenia's Vigor and like Old Cemetery, but that's bad. And
mhm.
I don't think it's not really good in Entei either. There's well you'd rather do Radiant Charizard, right, which we'll get to. That's just better, I
Well,
think.
I've tried it with that. At this point, I'm using Radiant Heatran, and I think I like it in the deck to get,
Because
maybe Radiant Heatran's better.
you need the energies on Entei, right? You don't really have extra attachments usually.
Well, the Entei deck, it's a basic for what? It's 230. You have Cape, which really boosts it up to 280, and then some Heat Fire energy or V-Guard energy, or maybe one of both even. So you can often survive a hit with Entei, in which case that
I
then you get that extra turn to get the Heatran.
yeah, I don't really think you survive a hit. I think you just
I well, you can. I play it. You don't even played it, so you can survive hits. If you don't survive hits with Entei, you're never gonna win. So
I think because
that's
most decks are either like Lugia, right? Lugia just one shots you.
mhm.
And they have stuff that one shots you. There are a lot of water decks that just one shot you.
Well, yeah. There's bad matchups.
And those are
I
probably
can't
like half the
deny that.
meta. And then like Lost Zone can one shot you. Like Lost Zone probably isn't a very good matchup unless they're just like not doing anything. They might not be able to one shot you earlier, but still, I think
Right.
even if they're two shotting you, they're still winning, right? So, probably
Yeah.
not necessarily, but I don't. I mean, the deck's not that good. I think it's pretty underwhelming, and I think
No,
Radiant Heatran's the weakest part of that underwhelming deck.
it may be. Well, look, Radiant Heatran, the damage it can do is good. It takes you 2 turns to set it up, I would say, and that's a big downside.
Yeah, and then you're doing 280, right? If you're
Right,
just trying to,
280,
which is
and
good,
280
but
for a single prize is very good, right?
it
And then
is,
you
it
could
is.
get a choice belt if you need to get a little more on, because Heatran, I mean Radiant Charizard, you've got to get the choice belt to get to that 280 number. So, Radiant Charizard, you want to attack for like 1 or 2 energy, so you have to wait till your opponent's taking a lot of prizes. This, by turn 3 in a game, or even turn 2, you can actually attack with Radiant Heatran. You can't do that with Radiant Charizard. So
I
it
guess.
it potentially has a place. But I think we've discussed this enough. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so. So Radiant Greed's now, right? Which is, I'd say, probably the best Radiant.
Right, we're going from one you said was the worst. I don't probably disagree there, but yeah, one of the best just for the concealed cards ability, right? You discard an energy and you draw two. So a lot of decks just play it just for that, even if they can't attack.
Yeah, you play it in like Blissey, right?
Yet in Blissey plays it just because obviously you want to get energies in the discard. It can be a special energy, whatever type of energy you have, which is nice.
And then you
And
play past
obviously,
the peak, and then you can't use it.
right, Blissey, then you play 4 path and you can't do it, but that's you figure that out. And I like to play Lunatone Soul Rock, and Radiant Greninja goes in that deck too. And again, you don't attack with it; you're just using it to get some energy in the discard in the early game and draw some.
Yeah, and then you Pokestop, it gets discarded. You like never see it again, right?
You can't recover it, but look, you don't want look. You just this is all about mocking my decks, I guess. But look, with Lunatone Soul Rock, you want Radiant Greninja the first 2 or 3 turns of the game. After that, you actually want it out of there because at that point you're set up. You just want you want the 4 Soul Rocks and a Lunatone in the active and a Lunatone on the bench.
Yeah,
So you're
I don't
okay.
hate it in that deck either. It provides like draw, and it's a deck that wants draw, so I think it's fine. But then it's obviously really strong, and so Palkia really likes
Yeah.
getting the energy in the discard. And so what was the other deck? I forgot. Oh yeah, and then Lost One doesn't need it in the discard, but likes the draw.
Right.
But then
Yep.
those decks can both attack with it, which is super strong. Its attack is 90 to 2 benched. Um,
Right.
so I think it's very strong, very like threatening. If
Hmm.
any of them are overpowered, it's this one or Radiant Charizard probably. Um, it
Yeah.
has it's just an annoying threat, but it's not overpowered. I wouldn't say. It's the reason that Mana Species play, I guess.
Hmm.
And it applies pressure, but it's not like super oppressive, right? It doesn't necessarily one shot all the single prizers. It can mess up your setup. And it
Hmm.
helps the Palkia deck, which is strong, and the Lost Box deck, which is very strong.
Yep.
Debatably the best deck in format, but I think it has a strong place in a number of decks, but it's not overpowered. But it's still very good.
No, I mean, right. The attack is 3 energy. You discard 2, which makes the attack. You can attack once with it, even if you don't get knocked out. You're probably not getting it set up a second time. Maybe with Lost Zone you can, but
Yeah,
not with Palkia. but the ability's nice. It's kind of like, the same thing, similar to like a Chinchino that we're talking about. It's just an energy, but now it's a stage one. It's a basic, so you can search for it with like level ball, get it into play, and get that engine
Wait,
going
what?
turn one. But
No,
what?
wait,
I
you
mean,
said
with quick ball. What they
yeah,
say?
you said level
Sorry,
ball.
with quick. Sorry, not level ball and quick ball right now, and then you have nest ball post rotation, so you can get it into play potentially turn one and start drawing a few more cards. So it's
Yeah,
a
with everyone's sure
consideration.
heard Battle VIP pass, right?
Yeah, well, look, it's a consideration for every deck though, which is why I think it's such a good card.
Yeah, except for cast form.
What? Well, yes, I
Yeah,
like cast form too, but that let's say no more about that.
yeah, but it's like I mean, you don't want to do indexes with lots of special energy that you want to attack with, other than Blissey. Like you don't want to put it in like the Zoroark deck because you need all those energies. But generally, it's very good.
Right. In a deck like Lugia, obviously one of Lugia's risks is running out of energies. It generally can't recover them, so it doesn't necessarily want to be discarding energy either.
Yeah, I think it also has a better Pokemon, which we'll get to.
Hmm.
I mean, it does have a better one. But Radiant Greninja, like, it's very good. I'd say it's probably the best. But moving on to Radiant Hawlucha, right?
Yep.
Which is okay. You do more to VMAXs. I guess it's seen some play. It's not bad,
Yeah.
but it's whatever.
It saw some at first, and its attack's terrible. It does 50 for two
I mean, it's
energy,
not
so
terrible. It's just
it's
not
not terrible,
good.
but you don't want to attack with it, right?
Yeah.
It was there, I guess, to counter. It came out in the earliest of them, right? Which so this was
Yeah.
before there were many V stars, so V maxes were obviously a mainstay in the game. So it was kind of potentially a counter, a card you could put in some decks.
Yeah, I think the Zoroark box from at the time played this card.
Yeah, I think I tried like an Ice Rider build that played this to try to get to the number to one shot, like the Mew, right, and stuff. But it's a very situational card at best, and it's not great, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't think that's great. I think it has some value though. I think like the ordering between these three is very clear, and these were like the first three we saw when we weren't
Mhm.
expecting many. Right? I'd say I was only expecting like six or so.
Yeah,
But I'm happy
getting
there are
to
more. But
yeah, and like I said, it did have more value initially when V Maxes were more dominant. Now they're less of the game, so therefore Radiant Halucha doesn't give you any benefit if you're up against a V Star deck.
yeah, and so but I'd say like the worst is Radiant Heatran, then Radiant Hawlucha, then Radiant Greninja, right? So
I guess so. I have a soft spot for Heatran, but
yeah.
I'll
Um,
I'll say okay for now.
okay. And then moving on to the Pokemon Go ones. You got Radiant Venusaur, which I think is a control player. It's one I like quite a bit.
Hmm.
It says after you've attacked, you draw till you have four cards in hand. Which is kind of weird because oftentimes after your attack, you want to get a KO, and then you take prizes, and then you can't draw any more cards because your hand's bigger. But luckily in
Right.
control decks, you don't take prizes, so it's all good. It's an okay engine in certain decks. It's pretty specific, but I think it has value, right? There are only a
Yeah.
few draw ones. This and Radiant Greninja. Um, so I think it's a solid one. I don't think it's the best. I think it's somewhere in the middle probably.
Yeah, it's very situational. And even for control decks, if you're playing Snorlax, which is probably is the better draw card, obviously, then you get no benefit from Venusaur because you're drawing to seven, so you don't get any extra cards. So it occasionally has a place in a deck, but I think it's pretty limited.
Yeah, well, if you're not playing Snorlax, I'm trying to think what was the deck that played it.
I,
I mean,
yeah,
like different control builds can play. It's a solid option, and it's
yeah, I mean, I've
probably the
seen it in
best
decks
Radiant for them.
where it makes sense.
Um, and then if you're playing Hisuian Arcanine, you like have to play this card as well. Otherwise, you're just gonna lose. So you play this. But I don't think it's anything particularly spectacular.
No, in the attack, I don't know if anybody uses the attack 90 for three energy, but the opponent's burned, confused, and poison, which is intriguing, but I'm just not sure that attack cost is
Yeah, you
viable.
have to like power it up with gardenias or something. So I've never like seen this used. I don't.
I haven't. Yeah, that now see now you make me want to give it a try with Gardenia's Vigor, but that's just lots of things that don't work well, so thrown together.
Yeah. But then what is better is it's Radiant Charizard, right? This is
Y
the other
yes.
contention for the best, right?
Yeah, obviously, yeah, played in a lot of top decks, really became big when it was as soon as it was launched, right?
Hmm.
Excited Heart ability, is attack cost is one. colorless less for each prize card your opponent's taken. It's 5 energy is the cost regularly, with one being a fire, to do 250 damage, which is quite a nice amount of damage. So if your opponent's taken 4 prizes, then you can attack for one colorless, and that's kind of where it comes in late in the game with 1 or 2 energy attachments. And you can attack the next turn, but it's probably getting knocked out. So it's a one-hit wonder in that regard. But certainly a lot of decks like Lost Zone, we're putting this in, right? This is kind
I
of
guess.
well, it was a consideration, right, to get that big knockout to end the game.
Yeah, I think it has value in Lost Zone. It has it's the go-to radiant for Lugia as well,
Hmm.
and also
Yeah.
it just pretty strong. It's a bit weird. Fire type's certainly one of the weakest types right now, so it's
Yeah.
but honestly, decks would tech this in. This is, I think, by far the best fire Pokemon in the game right now, unless I'm forgetting some other like Pokemon. But it's like
Yeah, it
it's
probably
quite
is.
good.
Yeah.
And so honestly, there's literally a Radiant Charizard deck, which wasn't that good, but it wasn't bad either. It was weird. It only plays like
Yeah.
one attacker, but I think you can power it up turn 2 if they KO you, you Raihan Magma Mason attached Twin, and obviously
Okay.
hitting 250 is really good. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously now it's kind of unviable completely because of Lost City, in which case you don't have any attackers anymore. But it's an
Right.
interesting card and very powerful.
Yeah, it is. Look, it's a good card. And like you said, one of probably the top 2 cards this in Radiant Greninja as the two that get tossed into a lot of decks.
But I think it's a bit, I don't know, it's more specific, but it has
Yeah.
more like power behind it as well, right? Radiant Greninja provides solid value throughout the game
Hmm.
and stuff like that, but Radiant Charizard just bam, really good, right?
Yeah, I mean, 250 for a single prizer is huge, right? It's just you only can have one of it. Get it, you have to wait in the game so you can get it to pull it off. So, and you have to have fire energy, which most decks would rather not be playing. So, but yeah, very good. And then we come to the next one is a water Pokemon, not the best water Pokemon in Radiant Blastoise. Also from Go, where you can discard a water from your hand to use this ability, and you can place 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Um, so it's like an Inteleon ping, although you have to discard energy, and you can only do it on the benched, which is a bit of a weird qualification because it's not that great, even if it didn't have that limitation.
Yeah, I think it's pretty solid. You haven't played this, have you?
I have not used it. Have you used it?
Yeah, so it saw play. So you know the Melanie Urshifu deck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so saw play in that. It's even more high roll. That was a moderately high roll deck. This like
Hmm.
increases the high roll potential, but it's very strong. You can use this to power up or to get the water energy in the discard, the Melanie,
Right.
and then hit on turn 2. You can like completely obliterate your opponent's bench. Um,
Okay.
and then you can pair that with Inteleons, Galactic Zagoons. I think I played this. I don't know. It certainly it has solid value though. Um, it's 40 damage as an ability, which is nice, and a basic as well. I think it's a pretty good card. It's a bit situational, and usually you'd rather play Radiant Greninja because
Hmm.
Radiant Blastoise feels clunky versus Radiant Greninja is like very consistent. So it's a bit different, and you don't really ever attack with it. I don't think I've played that because the Radiant Greninja's attack is probably better. So it's
Yeah,
not
it's
bad
again
though.
3 energy. 170 for three is not terrible on a single prize, but you got to get the 3 energy on. You can't with water. Usually with V's, obviously using Melanie, but you can't do that to get the energy on. So it, it's limited, right? And
Yeah.
I think you said 40 damage, but it places 2 damage counters, so it does
No,
20 damage.
wait. I thought it's only on one Pokemon. Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah,
on
just
two
one.
Pokemon.
Okay.
What does it on two Pokemon? I think there's a new
Um,
Pokemon. Maybe the Inteleon, or does that do one as well?
I try,
Inteleon VMAX. I don't know. I thought it does.
okay.
Um,
So we
I
got
don't
that.
know, but so it does 2 to 1 then.
Yeah.
So that's still very good. Indian Scoop of Net. It's not like amazingly powerful, but I think it has solid value. I guess I'm talking enough about it. It's not that good, but it has value. I think.
There's a deck where you could consider it. I think
Yeah.
is what I'd say.
I think we've yet to see a Pokemon that's worse than Radiant Heatran.
I certainly enjoy playing Radiant Heatran more than I would this card, but I guess that's not the criteria.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. So we have now Radiant Gardevoir, right?
Well,
A
no, we
psychic.
have Radiant Eevee, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
So this one I don't have, right? I think is this the only Radiant I don't have? It is.
Okay, right, because it
No,
was a
it's not. I don't
promo.
have any of the. I don't have the Crown Zenith ones. But yeah, this is a promo for Pokemon Go. It's an interesting attack. Twinkle Gathering. Search your deck for a number of cards up to the number of different types of Pokemon you have in play, and put them into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So you could theoretically search for six different cards, even more theoretically, but not really.
Only Pokemon cards, right? Not trainers.
Um, no, search.
Oh,
You
cards.
search,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
search for
Yeah.
any
So
cards.
it could be any card. Okay. Good.
But notably, this is Steam Playing Control. And so this is
Yeah.
probably Radiant Venusaur is a bit like safer. Radiant Eve is kind of risky. You need an energy. It's kind of awkward to use, but it has solid value. Also, you're gonna get like Margit a lot of the time. But
Yeah.
I think Radiant Eevee is like a solid card in control. And honestly, as a setup card, you can also compare it to, which we'll get to, Radiant Jirachi, which both allow you to like set up. So I think Radiant Eevee is a pretty good card. It does not see much play. I think most people don't know it exists, but I think it's a
Yeah.
solid card.
Well, and you have to have a deck with a lot of different types of Pokemon, right? Because it's you draw per Pokemon in play. So
Yeah, most decks
type of
have like
Pokemon.
three at least, though. I mean, a deck
Maybe
like
I'm not
like
sure.
like Palkia doesn't, but I think most other decks do. What decks don't? Like,
Well, my Entei deck certainly doesn't,
well,
but
what's it have? It has two though, at least. Well, it might have three, right? You have
it could.
your
You could
fire,
play a
you have a
Lumineon.
barrel, yeah, and you can play Luminion or Crobat down,
And
in
I
which
play,
case you have
yeah, so
three.
three or four, yeah, that's true. I play Crobat, so
Um,
it does have three.
and obviously, if you
Um,
have this, you're more inclined to run to play that Crobat or that Luminion down because it actually has value being on the board. Obviously, you'd probably rather
yeah,
have Radiant Charizard or Radiant Heatran in the deck, but in like slower setup style decks, Radiant Eevee has solid value. The reason a deck like Zoroark doesn't play it is because it's because you want to save your energies for the Zoroark attackers, but it could see value in that style list.
yeah. I mean, most decks want to start attacking early, though. They don't want to waste an attack just to get cards, right? So outside of control decks, it's pretty going to be pretty limited, I think.
Yeah, but I think it's still I think it's good in control, and I'm a control player, but I think this is better than Radiant Heatran.
Maybe, but you've never played it. You
Oh no,
don't
I
even,
don't
haven't
have
even
it. I don't.
bothered.
I think
You
it's
haven't
like
even bothered to try and get the card.
well, I've got like four Radiant Heatrans.
Well, because right. Well, this is a promo. You can't open it in the game, so and obviously that's a plus to live. Well, if you don't have to, you're not gonna when you have Radiant Heatran and you pull one from a pack, it's actually a good thing because these are high value cards, so you're getting a lot of credits to in the dusting system. Right now in PT2GO, which you're playing, it's a completely dead card when you open a pack and get one.
Yeah, but
So,
I think
all right,
Radiant Eevee is not. It's not that good, but it's okay.
okay. We'll see. You try it sometime, and I look forward to hearing about it. But
Yeah.
control. So now to Radiant Gardevoir, right? That we've got that promo
Yeah.
out of the way. So with the Loving Veil
And this is, I think, the third best one as
ability,
well. I'd probably say.
really, I would not. I don't
I
know.
don't know what
No,
else is better
but
than this.
oh,
Oh,
sorry.
Radiant needs to Student Steeler is okay, I guess.
I might even put Radiant Jirachi above it.
Radiant Jirachi's not good. Radiant Gardevoir sees play.
It did see play. It's
It
seeing a
still
lot less
plays
play.
well because most aren't seeing play though.
Well, I understand, right? Well, right, you have just a couple that do, right? So Loving Veil, all of your Pokemon take 20 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon V. And obviously, V stars are Vs also, so it's useful. But obviously down the road, is EX is come into play, it's less of a significant card. Um, and there's decks that play it, but usually taking 20 less isn't the difference between being knocked out and not. And you probably
I mean, a lot of decks
generally
play V Guard energy though, right? And
they
this is very
do.
similar. I mean, not that many, but a solid chunk play it, and this is similar to it, and doesn't require energy commitment.
Right, but this is your only radiant Pokemon, so that has to be more important than anything else of the other Radiant Pokemon, which makes it difficult to put into a lot of decks, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you need like the Drongin from Radiant Greninja, you like always put that in,
Right.
and then
Hmm.
obviously Radiant Charizard provides good value. I think this is pretty good though. There are a lot of decks that hit either around one shot range, but Radiant Gardevoir pushes you out, or hit
Yeah.
like two shot range, which Radiant
Hmm.
Gardevoir is really good for. I think it has solid value. I'm trying to think the decks that sees the most play in. Certainly, assuming Gudra V starts good in,
Yeah.
Arceus V starts good in, and those are two very good decks. And it
Hmm.
sees sometimes he's playing those. Either those decks sometimes will not play any Radiant, or Hisuian
Right.
Gudra V-Star will play Radiant Greninja as well. But I think Radiant Guard is pretty alright. I don't think I've ever attacked with it, but it's not impossible to attack with. It's not the worst attack. Um, so I think it's a
No.
solid Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a consideration for sure, and you do have to with the decks that would play it. You have to. Do you want to give up a bench spot too for this card? Is a factor too. But yeah, it has a place in some decks. Maybe it's the third best. We'll see. I'm hoping something's better than this because if this is the third best, the Radiants aren't very exciting, I
Yeah,
would
well, the
say.
third best might be the other art of Radiant Charizard.
That's right. I said 15, but 16 would include that one. So, but now we get see this one actually. I've played this one more, probably the third most of anyone. The
Well,
next
yeah,
one,
because it's on the ladder in live.
that's right. Everybody has it, and but I had it before then, right? Radiant Hisuian Sneasler with its poison peak ability during your Pokemon check. During Pokemon checkup, put two more damage counters on your opponent's poisoned Pokemon. So if you're doing something with poison, obviously Weezing's the big one. I'm still trying to make a Crobat VMAX hit and run deck work, so it goes in that also. Um, if you're playing poison, this is probably an easy include in the deck.
Yeah, it certainly has value. I think it has like very obvious value in certain decks.
Yeah.
One thing is I don't actually like it that much in Weezing decks because specifically, this is really important against the Intellion engine, but it's still I say important. I got logged out. So, yeah, because you hit them for 40. Otherwise, you just
Right.
instantly KO them, and then they send up their attacker. The idea for, in my eyes, is because I like control. If they get KO'd into your turn, that's better than getting KO'd into their turn. Um, just Radiant doing Sneasler actually hurts the math in that.
I mean, it
But
depends
yeah,
though. Like, do they have if do they have a second Sobble in play? If they only have one Sobble, you've knocked it out.
I,
Then it's a win for you,
I guess,
right?
but they still can't really use it because you got the Weezing. So,
That's true. So
but I think it's okay, and you will attack with this in some decks as well. Not that much, but you certainly can, and I think I've seen it some.
yeah, 90 for three isn't great, but there's obviously worse attacks in the
Yeah,
game too.
and it does
So
more as well because the poison, the ability, and the doing poison
right,
and
and they're
things. So
poisoned, so you're putting three damage counters on it for the poison, so you're at 120 after the first turn.
yeah, but I think it's whatever.
Yeah, it is in the top few that see play, even before it was on the ladder, right? People Weezing's around, it has a place in those decks.
Yeah, I definitely
But
think so.
so let's see, maybe you'll have some love for the next Pokemon. Now we have Radiant Steelix. This is one without an ability, so usually ones that out abilities don't see a lot of play. Energy Stream does 20. You can attach up to two Metal Energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. It's got 170, so hopefully it survives. And then it does Destructive Finish, 60 plus for 3 energy. Discard cards from the top of your deck until one card remains. This attack does 30 more damage for each energy card you discarded in this way. So I haven't used this yet, but it certainly sounds intriguing. How about yourself?
Yeah, so I have not used this either yet, I don't think, but I actually got some interesting deck ideas that I've yet to put together. There are a few interesting combos. So you can power this up in one turn with Metal Saucer Raihan. So that's good. Obviously, we'll be losing Metal Saucer soon.
Yeah, and you need a bunch of pieces in your hand that turn. So
I mean, it's
yes,
Metal Saucer. It's
theoretically you
easier
could
to
do it.
power up than Zacian, so it wasn't that hard to power up.
Well, all right, but it's not like you're doing it on whatever turn you want to. But keep going.
And then one obviously gets hard counted by Bunnelby, so with Burrow, which discards one, but hopefully that doesn't happen because if they do that, you'll just lose. But it's really interesting. Obviously, one way to play this is just have this as a main attacker where you just do tons of damage, or you can pair it with Zacian, Or the really interesting combo, which I think might be the better combo, you can pair it with V-Unions, because then you're going to get all your V-Unions into the discard. Um, and then you can go ahead, and then you'll essentially have no cards in deck. You go, which is good. It's good.
Well,
Yes,
hopefully.
no, it's good because
Go
then
on.
you can go ahead and recover energies with Energy Recycler, and then you can
Yeah.
use either Gardevoir or you could use Magnezone as well, or something else that accelerates energy from the top of your deck, and then you're guaranteed to hit those energies. And then you accelerate them all to your V Union, and then you got your V Union powered up nice and easy. So that works. So you could do Gardevoir with Radiant Steelix and some V Unions. Um,
Mhm.
Also, though, I think a bit more interestingly, which I've not used it for this,
Yeah.
but you don't even need a lot of energy in deck. But it gets you down to no cards in deck, which is really powerful if you want to like have a control loop. So you can play this in control.
Mhm.
So right, this is what you were thinking when you saw the card, right?
Well, one, right? You want to get it down to only one card
Yeah.
in your deck, so you get your loop. I mean, the risk with the V Union, I understand the logic behind it, but you have to have your board set up and the right cards in hand. Otherwise, you're in a lot of trouble. You better have the hope that top card, that last card in deck, will keep you from decking out the next turn,
Well,
right?
yeah. Well, you make sure you have the cards in hand. But if you take a few turns to set up,
Right.
and you get a V Union set up, it's really like if you get Mewtwo V Union set up just in one turn, pop it off, it's really good, and you probably win. The issue is it obviously pairs really nicely with Radiant. With Zacian V Union, except
Mhm.
Zacian V Union is really bad. So, um,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
the other way to play it would be as a finisher, right? You just you get enough energy in the deck such that you're going to take your last prize cards, so it doesn't matter that you're basically out of a deck, right?
yeah, you could do that. I personally think it's better in control. It's a bit awkward to pair up in control, but if you're playing Metal Control, I think Radiant Steelix has value, being able to get
Mm.
you into that end game. I don't actually know if Metal Control needs to get down to a zero card deck, but certain decks, notably, I think it's pretty good with Mewtwo V Union, right? And I think
Yeah.
Radiant Steelix Mewtwo V Union is a solid deck, or there's some other ways to play it, but I think Radiant Steelix is interesting.
Yeah,
It's a bit
it's
awkward.
interesting. I'm not sure that it's good, and I don't know if anyone's really played with it yet either. Doesn't mean it can't do something, but it is a there's a high downside to playing this,
Yeah,
I would
but
say too.
you can use it to power up like Dialga V Star in one turn to assume you have the Dialga V in
You
play
could.
already.
Yeah.
Obviously Zacian V Union, Mewtwo V Union. Really, you can literally power up anything in one turn with this after you attack if you have the good in
Right.
play. And obviously the energy recyclers in hand. But I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, well, see, as you mentioned Dialga, I wonder, because Dialga's a weird deck 'cause it doesn't have that many attackers. You could use it to power up the Dialga, depending how the game goes. You could use it at the end, too, because, right, your Dialga's out, you'd have nothing less to attack with.
Yeah, you
Right?
need to
Maybe
have
you have,
energy recycler or something, but
right,
it
you need
doesn't
something
actually
like
hit
that.
that much damage, which is a bit problematic.
Right,
Um,
60 plus 30 per, so you need an awful lot of energies to make it work.
Yeah, but I think Radiant Steelix is pretty solid and kind of it's unique. It's certainly it's definitely the most unique out of all of them, and they're all already pretty unique. But it's kind of
It
weird.
is. It's intriguing. I don't think you haven't used it yet, so it's not hasn't seemed to be a quality card to you yet, I'd say.
Yeah,
All right, so now getting one with an ability, which is the norm here, a Radiant Serena with Elegant Heal. You can once per during your turn, you can heal 20 from each of your Pokemon. So the
yeah. This is
ability to
another control
okay,
one, right? That's what you're thinking, right? You play so much control.
yeah, control or yeah, I mean, you do a card or a deck where you're kind of slowly grinding away at your opponents, maybe with some spread something. You're kind of healing off your stuff and just kind of just making a slow, ugly game to the finish, maybe.
Yeah, I think it obviously comes pretty well with if you've seen the deck, it's have I covered this on my channel? I'm not sure, but um Radiant Serena with Gengar from Sword and Shield, and Mewtwo V Union, as well as of course some other psychic Pokemon such as the Curlia engine. You get five psychic Pokemon in play, Radiant Serena, and then essentially you're healing 100 every turn. You could even
Mhm.
pair it with Champions Festival to be healing 150 every turn, which is really good without even need to use your attack. So then you can actually attack with Mewtwo V Union multiple turns in a row. Um, so that's really good. It's a bit awkward to set up. You need like a full bench of psychic Pokemon other than Radiant Serena, but it's good in that deck. Obviously, also I like no one really plays Champions Festival either, and it's like impossibly hard to get. But if you have a Champions Festival, it can come pretty nicely with Radiant Arena. You can also use Radiant Arena with any of the healing grass Pokemon, notably Celebi VMAX or Hatterene VMAX, which is not grass, but I think it's pretty alright. It's not that good, but it's good.
I mean, it's something that could be tried out with some things, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Again, it's a pretty limited niche card. That's not overwhelming for sure.
yeah. But
So we have
you haven't played this, have you?
no with the Radiance Arena.
Yeah.
No, I have not. So I don't. I don't have no deck idea comes to mind of something I'd like to play with it. I gotta say.
I do think the V2V unit of the Radiant Arena deck's pretty good.
Okay, I see it. And now we'll talk. With talking about Mewtwo V Union, the V Unions were difficult to get in PTCGO because you had to get them one at a time, and the costs often of the trades that were being proposed out there were really weird in their values. I know you made your own trades and got it, but it's much I think simpler and probably cheaper to get in live. So at some point, I do have to get that card.
Yeah, so you're gonna build your Radiant Arena, V2V Union, Champions Festival deck in live.
I'll have to check to see what for Champions Festival. I assume I can craft it, but
You
I don't.
probably can't craft it.
I guess
If you
not.
can't Tropical Beach, you probably can't craft. I mean, I guess you
Yeah.
can't craft Tropical Beach 'cause it's too old, but
It's too old at this
I
point,
don't
also,
know.
because you
Like,
can't find out the cost of like the A specs and stuff either. But you're right. I probably can't craft Tropical Beach, so
yeah, or
I
Champions
didn't.
Festival.
Or Champions Festival,
Yeah.
probably not. Yeah, that's what I meant. So I didn't pick it up before I migrated, so probably that's it. I'm never gonna get those cards
Yeah.
now. So
And when it breaks the game, you'll be sad. Literally
yes,
breaks the game.
yeah,
Okay.
I get it. Yeah,
Okay, so Radiant Alakazam now, though.
yep.
This one's probably might be my favorite. It's not the best, but it's not bad by any means. Again,
Mhm.
they're skipping out on Kadabra, doing anything they can to do that. Even though I think they can use Kadabra now, I'm not sure what the case is with
I
that.
think they can, but it was probably it might have been after this card was printed that got approved.
Yeah, but so its ability Painful Spoon's really interesting here. You can once on your turn you can move two dangerous counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another one of their Pokemon. This is really powerful. It allows you to preserve damage on the board. It also allows you to just do weird stuff with spread. I made a Ditto box that uses Radiant Alakazam really well. And also, its attack Mind Ruler, Psychic Colorless, does 20 for each
Mhm.
card in your opponent's hand is pretty solid as well, especially against Lost Box, Control, or any other deck that likes to get the big hand. It can be really strong.
Yeah, I've tried that spread deck, and it's interesting that and yeah, the attack is viable, potentially useful than most of the attack. Right, it's only two energy. Usually they're three, so that's a big difference. And there are certain decks where your opponents get big hand sizes, so you can make them pay for that. So
Yeah,
it,
I think it's
it's
certainly very unique, which gives it more usefulness.
yeah, yeah, the ability and that attack. So um, it's a good one. Now I think one of a strong one we have next year is the Radiant Jirachi. I don't think you like this as much, but we'll see here. It's got both the ability and an attack that can see some play. The ability Entrusted Wishes if this Pokemon is in the active spot and is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, which means it does. If it's on the bench, it gets knocked out. It doesn't happen. If poison or something like that is what knocks it out, you don't get the benefit. But if it's just for regular damage, then you search your deck for up to three cards and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So searching for three cards, always very good. And it's when it's knocked out by your opponent's attack, so you can't get Marnied away from those cards too. You start your turn with those cards. Very nice potential there. And then Astral Misfortune for two colorless, so you can play it with a twin or even a DTE because it doesn't matter the damage reduction. Flip two coins if both of them are heads. Your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out. So I'm not sure the exact odds, but you're going to obviously not get it most of the time. But obviously, it's kind of a fun play when you flip two coins and you knock out like a three prize card with it.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I don't hate it, certainly. I don't love it, though. Obviously, Entrusted Wishes, it gets like path. There's a lot of path, which is annoying.
Yeah, path. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Also, there's a lot of big Parasol right now, which just stops Astral Misfortune. So yeah, I feel like it's an all right card. Obviously, it feels kind of bad to use Astral Misfortune as well in my eyes. And I know I'm not the best player because I flip a lot of tails, but it still feels kind of bad. I think it's an all right card, but just in a really bad spot in the meta right now. So yeah, that's my thought. But we just talked about it. He's playing the Zoroark deck. It's a
Right.
pretty it has like solid value.
Yeah, it's kind of like this, or say like the Snorlax or the Gormadize. They're two different things, but they're kind of a similar thing. You stick it up there, and then let your opponent hit into it to set up your next turn. Um, but it certainly sees plays in a number of decks, the Radiant Jirachi, right? People have been trying it out in different things. So it has some plays. As I go through the list now, I see Noivern, which is not a Radiant Pokemon,
Yes, I see
but it
those.
always shows up because it has a Radiant Hunt attack. So, but then
Which KO's
obviously
Radiant Pokemon, which is something. I forgot about this card, but
that's
it's
oh yeah, that's true. It knock out one of your opponent's Radiant Pokemon, so it knocks out the one on the bench too. So
yeah.
if you
What if
ever
I
get
want to knock out
afraid,
both of their Radiant Pokemon?
yeah, very funny. So therefore, if it ever becomes a big concern, this is an option here. So
Yeah, I don't hate this honestly in Zoroark because most decks play Radiant Pokemon, right?
yeah,
So it's pretty much a guaranteed KO once during the game, which is okay.
yeah. You could have tossed this into a Zoroark deck for sure. But getting back to the actual Radiant Pokemon, we're towards the end here. So now we've got Radiant Charge-a-Bug, shocking blockability whenever any player attaches an energy card from their hand to one of their Pokemon V, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. Now it's very much hurt by the fact it came out at the very end of the year, and so obviously there will be Vs all next year, but the
In the format.
in format, right? But the EX is going to start to see a lot of play too, and it has no effect on those. So its usefulness is certainly hurt by that. And 2 damage counters is useful, but I don't know that's going to swing the difference that much. And it's only from hand, right?
Yeah.
To the so therefore it doesn't hurt them when they accelerate energy, say with Archeops. Then it if it would obviously be a lot more powerful.
Yeah, I think this gives me actually a deck idea, but with linear attack, it does 30 snipe to any of your Pokemon, which is okay, right? It's not bad. It's not great, but it's okay.
Right. The fact that it's NA makes it a consideration.
Yeah. But then I'm thinking you can pair this with something like the Raichu from I have no idea. It might be like Astral Radiant or Brilliant Stars. Probably Brilliant Stars. That does
Mhm.
spread to all your opponent's Pokemon V. You can just like target down their Pokemon V, and there are still a lot of decks that play a lot of Pokemon V, and I think it's an all right card. I don't think it sees a ton of value, but really any Pokemon that gives you extra damage is nice. Um, it has some value. I don't think it has much value, but in a few specific decks, I think it's all right.
Yeah, it's for the right deck you can consider it. There's not many decks though, right? Usually you're going to want like a Greninja or Charizard, something like that. It's just going to give you a lot more benefit over the course of most games.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not the worst. I wouldn't say.
Yeah, and then a Pokemon that got a lot of hype before it came out. I think the Radiant Eternatus with its climactic gate ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 2 Pokemon VMAX and put them onto your bench. Then shuffle your deck. If you use this ability, your turn ends. So you can, if you get this on turn one, you can get 2 VMAX into play that turn, which is quite powerful. Now you can't attach any energy to them because you're ending your turn with it, but it's a interesting ability certainly. That opens up
Yeah,
possibilities.
I think there are a few things I want to say about this card.
Yep.
One, it's actually a pretty good attacker. Fire Dark
Hmm.
Colorless, awkward to power up because you can't even use stuff like Mega Mason or Dark Patch, but you can play in Lost Box.
Right.
And with the new
And it
set,
does.
you can also use Armrouge, Armrouge Mega Mason. But then I really like the fact that it does 200 for 3, which isn't bad by any means. It's pretty good. And
Yep.
170 HP is also pretty solid. Like,
Hmm.
it's just a solid attacker. Um, what do you think about that attack, though?
Yeah. No. 200 on a single prize attack for 3 energies. Pretty good. The fact that it's 3 energy, that's the difficulty, right? It's kind of like the amazing rares in a sense, where the energy with the mix made it a bit prohibitive.
Yeah.
So how to power it up? Lost Zone. I don't think it's good enough that you'd put it in Lugia Archeops. Obviously, that could
Yeah.
power it up
I mean, like,
also.
Radiant Charge is probably better.
Yeah, I would think it almost always would be. Um, unless you'd want it in a deck probably where you're using the ability also. So it'd have to probably go in a VMAX deck of some type, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking if I could do a deck where I have VMAXs and Radiant Eternus, and you can attack with both and like Lost Zone, but I
Now I'm trying
yeah.
to. I haven't used Blaziken in a bit. Blaziken VMAX. Does that accelerate to any Pokemon, or is it
No, it's
only
only Rapid Strike.
only Rapid Strike? Okay, because that would I could get the Blaziken into play if I could accelerate with it. You kind of need some way to accelerate energy to it. That's part of the difficulty of Dragon type, right? Because they don't have their own energy type, so they have energy mixes that make them awkward.
Yeah. But then obviously the ability getting two VMAX into play. People have referred to it as like free VMAXs. It's not really true. You get them out at the same speed because it's still turn two, except you're actually a turn behind on energy attachments to your VMAXs. So
Right.
you could do it in a toolbox style deck, but still awkward to power up. Radiant Eternus isn't that good. Some people, I mean, got the most hype out of any card from Crown Zenith probably because there weren't that many cards, but
Hmm.
it's not that good. I mean, I think it's interesting, it's unique, but I don't think it's that good. It's not bad by any means. I think it's all right, but it's not great.
Yeah, you either need a VMAX because you're getting into play without any energy. So it's either a VMAX that you're attacking with something else the next turn, not the VMAX you just accelerated. But then why do you play this Radiant Eternus is probably a big question. Or there are VMAXs where you attack for one with some you know, kind of cheesy little attacks, which I've messed around with. So you could do
With
something like
Radiant
that.
Eternus or not with Radiant Eternus?
Well, with Radiant Turnus, if you're going to use Radiant Turnus, you might want a VMAX that attacks for one, and there are, and
Yeah,
they do exist, obviously, and obviously even you could do something like Urshifu, right? You get it on the
yeah,
bench, and you need to swing it into the active next turn, so maybe that's a way to play a card like that.
yeah. And I also think oh, I lost my thought process. It can be used with stuff like with healing cards. Also one thing that it with stuff like Sylvie VMAX or having VMAXs that want abilities. Shadow Rider, we've seen that as well, which is
Hmm.
okay, certainly. Probably
Right.
worse, but if you go first, it could be. You probably rather use Ashen, but then you also avoid playing the basic, which can be vulnerable.
Hmm.
So that's interesting. I'd say it's still not worth it usually. But it sees some value in that sense, not having that 200 HP basic into play.
Yeah, I mean it came out with a lot of hype, like you said. It hasn't really seen a lot of play. Um, People obviously did it with Eternus, but like you said, it's just better just to lay down the V and attach an energy than to accelerate it with no energy on it.
Yeah,
So
the idea is that they can't get Gust KO'd by as many things, but it still has value.
right. So it's a card that still I think I want to sit down and mess around with. I don't think it's anything great though. Most likely at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's okay. That's probably somewhere in the middle of all the Radiants.
I guess so. Although, I think I don't know if it's good. Radiant Heattran's still probably the better attacker, but you're
Well,
not going to give me
no,
you're not going to give me that argument.
no, I don't think so. But so yeah, I think that I like the Radiants. So they're pretty cool. They're much more fleshed out than I thought. I think they have a wide variety of uses. They're all very fun. No matter what style of player you are, I think you'll find something cool here. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
I think they're good. I think it's a little odd that they did the Radiance the same year as the V Stars, right? In a
Well, it's
sense.
kind of like what they did where they came out with the Prism Stars at the same year time as tag teams.
Okay, so this is kind of something they like to do at the end of a block, come out with some special
Yeah, they
things.
came out with like breaks. I think were at the end of a block. But
Okay.
Radiants are pretty cool. What's your favorite Radiant Pokemon?
I mean, the one that I certainly played the most and probably still will is Radiant Greninja. Just the ability, getting things going, is nice. In terms of a fun one that I like when it works. Still Radiant Heatran is the one for getting that big knockout power. I find pretty hard to resist. So how about you?
I mean, I'd say probably Radiant Alakazam. Certainly though, one of the coolest ones has to be Noivern. But I think that's all it is. All we have for the podcast today. I hope you've enjoyed. Comment down below what platforms you want this on. We obviously have it on YouTube. We will, I think, try to get it on some
Yep.
other platform, right?
Yeah, that's the goal. I'm starting to look into it. So it's It is not. It is a bit complicated, I will say though.
Yeah, but we hope you enjoyed. I've been 10 Types here on Common Fossil. Check out our YouTube channel, should be somewhere. And also like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed it. And we're interested in hearing, of course, all your thoughts if you've made it this far. And as always, we're excited to see you next time.
Take care.